Awesome. Okay, welcome everybody to the Privacy Exchange Community Show and Tell series with our special guest today, Denise Farnsworth. Denise is an accomplished privacy leader who brings her unique and global insights from her three different types of roles in different types of organizations, including big tech firms like Microsoft, Facebook, and NetSuite, small business and medium-sized businesses through her work as a privacy consultant, and three, now in government, as she currently serves as the state of Utah's privacy architect. Denise just released a brand new book called The Minimum Viable Privacy Compliance Step-by-Step Instructions for Small to Medium Businesses with a Global Reach that distills her extensive experience across big tech, small businesses, and government into a practical framework. She's developed an innovative approach to helping organizations of all sizes build sustainable privacy programs that adapt to our evolving business and regulatory landscape, which we all are dealing with right now. And that is the discussion point for today. So, as usual, we will spend the next 25 minutes or so together. The first 10 to 15 minutes will be an interview with Denise and me, and then we'll turn off the recording to allow for audience Q&A. As a reminder, the information shared in today's session is for general information purposes only and is not legal advice. So if you need legal advice, please contact your own attorney. Okay, with all of the particulars behind us, let us hop in. So Denise, welcome again. My first question to you is, at a high level, I know the book is out. I have not read it yet. I think Ryan has. But I'm curious to know at a high level, what is the global privacy program framework that you explain in detail in the book?
Okay. So maybe just to back up just a little. So the Global Privacy Program Framework in the book is the result of all of my years of experience in big tech, but then the last 5 years working with small to medium businesses and just trying to figure out how to take all this information that's been in my head and help them distill it into something that they could incorporate into small to medium business. So the framework, the very first thing that I learned with trying to do that is everybody was overwhelmed, and we just had to figure out how do we get everybody started? Where do we start? And so the result was this framework where it's broken out into three parts. The first is where you look at things that are very strategic. So getting buy-in, getting your governance together, making sure that you have budget and resources, or at least know that there's nothing or what there is. The second thing is to gather all your information. So you need system inventories, you need data inventories, you need information. And then the third thing is all the tactical things that you need to do, like drafting policies and making sure that you're operationalizing what you decide to do from a privacy program perspective. So that's the framework.
Yeah. This is really, I'm really curious to read this book. I can't wait to read it. One of the things I did get from the summary on your website that I was reading was it appears like there's a big gap between like intent and actually doing. So that the tactical aspect of what you're talking is very interesting. And I'm curious from your experience, where did you find that most small to medium sized businesses and their staff had the most challenges? Like you gave an example on your website of, data minimization. Like, okay, well, what would you do? And there was no, like crickets after that. So I'm curious what you experienced as a consultant.
So the hardest part is to get buy-in, because once you get started, it's incremental, right? Just do something every single day. But the hardest part is at all levels of the company. And if it's let's somebody in their garage with a website, that's all levels, right? They wear lots of different hats. But if you've got like a $5 billion cap company, which I worked with as well, you've got leadership, you've got people who are just middle management setting policy, and then you've got people who are actually doing the work. And you have to figure out how to get that to trickle through all. And then you have to get people to realize that they need to take what they're already doing and just add to it so that they're not recreating the wheel. And once they get that, then it just moves forward so quickly because they're just doing their job. and it just becomes part of their job. So it's that infusion into the day-to-day.
I love that. I'm going to go a little off topic here because the buy-in part is something we've talked about previously, and something you told me last year has stuck with me forever, Denise, and that was about mantras. Can you tell us just a little bit about how mantras help you seed that buy-in? And what is a
Sure,
mantra and how it works?
sure. So maybe I'll just tell the same story. So when I was at Microsoft for 16 years, and I started out at Microsoft as a paralegal, and I worked my way up to being the head of legal for Microsoft Ireland. So I got to work in Microsoft in Redmond, Seattle, for about 12 years. And I had access to everybody and everything, and I was right there at the heart of things. When I went to Ireland, I realized that I'd lost that. And I had to figure out in a company that large how to become relevant or remain relevant and make sure that I remained visible and make sure that I was in front of people every single day. And I had a huge client base at that time. So what I started to do is I started to figure out what is the message that I want to send. And that's the mantra. So the thing that I want everybody to learn, the thing that I want to start hearing back, the thing that I want to know that they've picked up. And so I started creating these phrases or words that I would seed in every single meeting that I had, depending on the client. And when I started hearing that mantra coming back, I knew that I had been successful. And the way that I used that with the framework and minimum viable privacy compliance is the same. I realized that it didn't matter. I knew that I was getting that infusion, that buy-in from senior all the way down when everybody was using that same phrase, that same term, that same focus. So that's what it is.
I love that, and it's really kind of a cool test to see how effective these meetings are. And I think it just underlines the importance of the words that we say and how we say them too. So one thing we do talk about in the community, and Ryan and I try to do this, is framing privacy in a positive way, in an empowering way, that it's not what's the word? Like a doomsday thing, that like there are steps that you can take, even if it is hard. So it's really cool to see that that's part of this book as well, because that was something that stuck with me deeply from our last conversation, Denise. So we've talked about your role at Microsoft. You also had some interesting roles at Facebook. I think you were in Ireland at the time.
It
Um,
was.
I'd like to know a little bit about how your time in big tech specifically influences what you do now, working for the state of Utah as an architect of their privacy program, and how other businesses can navigate the differences working in the United States, in Europe, and from big to small tech or
Wow, that
companies.
there's a lot there to unpack.
Yeah, yeah.
I I was fortunate enough and I truly believe right time, right place. I am not special. I'm not anyone important. I'm not, I just happened to be at the right time at the right place. And I actually started my career at Apple. And I was there just as Steve Jobs was getting booted out. And I was there when he came back. So I know John Scully and Steve Jobs and a bunch of others. And I was just an admin at the time, but like worked on the Apple IBM joint venture chip and research and development and other things. And then my big tech journey took me to Microsoft, and I was a paralegal. And as I already stated, I knew the right people. I had the right sponsors. I had the right opportunities to be in front of Balmer, to be in front of Gates, and was identified as a high performer and was put on a track to work me through the company. And then from there, again, right time, right place. I just had the right contacts, and they asked me to be the deputy DPO to create the data protection office for Meta in Ireland. And that was an experience of a lifetime. So to answer your question about what impact does it have on me, it literally, it, I grew up in it, right? I was immersed in it. And the excellence that is required to work at that capacity and under that amount of pressure, um, you're under a microscope 24/7, and every day is a performance review. And so it pretty much makes me who I am. Um, the thing that I take with me as I left big tech with this consultancy is, in order to get all of that work done. So at one point, for example, when I was at Microsoft in Ireland, I was getting 5,000 emails a day. Right. I mean, it literally, it requires you to do the most important things, to find patterns and trends, and then to focus on the things that are common across all of them to create efficiencies. So if I were to distill down and answer your question, it would be the consistent focus on the commonalities, which are the privacy principles, and then incremental change. Taking those principles and infusing them on a day-to-day basis in the ways that people already work to slingshot you forward to incremental change.
I love that. And so that's the type of mentality you bring to your work with the state of Utah now. So you're focusing on patterns that you're seeing across
That's right.
different industry. Okay, interesting.
That's right.
That's so fascinating. To have that perspective to operationalize it at like a global scale, and then your everyday mom and pop, small, medium-sized business, global and local, and now from the inside. It's really cool, Denise, to see. I could, as you know, we could talk forever, but I really want to open this up to guests in our audience to ask questions as well. So Ryan, if you could please turn off the recording now, and farewell to the folks who are watching.